broadcasting.
Blog Talk USA. Are you tired of waiting for change? Tune into Blog Talk USA. Let your voice be heard on Blog Talk USA.
1012, and it gives me 1,250 feet. Texas go.
TWA announced the arrival of their flight from Los Angeles and Chicago.
And welcome to the T&Z Talk Show on Blog Talk USA. I'm Richard Zombeck, and I'm here with Tony Tripiano. And today's show looks like we're going to be talking about, what's happening in Oregon, the Flint water broadcast on MSNBC with Rachel Maddow, and, of course, Donald Trump and his war with Fox News. Good morning, Tony.
Good morning, Z. Pleasure to be with you on this Thursday. A lot going on. Want to welcome our audience as always. It's been, this would be day 4 and of the Daily Show, and it seems like we're getting a little traction, so we appreciate those that have tuned in, those that are listening through the archives as well. We do want to remind folks, see, if they want to join us on air, they're always welcome to do that. The number here at Blog Talk USA is 347-855-8118. That's 347-855-8118, and they're going to find us online at tandtalk.com. That's T-A-N-D and the letter Z talk.com. Listen, before we get into, and I probably shouldn't even throw this out there, but I meant to mention it to you earlier today. In fact, I meant to send you the link yesterday, but I had actually found it on my phone, and I was in the middle of actually cooking dinner last night, so I just forgot to do it. But there was a story in the Detroit Free Press yesterday, and this has nothing to do with anything you and I would normally talk about. But the headline was something along the lines, and the headlines disappeared, or I would just go read it verbatim. But it was man killed while watching porn in his car. And I thought, somebody murdered somebody that was watching porn in their car. No. Nothing so obvious as that. The man was driving down a major freeway, literally with his pants off, watching pornography on his cell phone, masturbating, and apparently lost control of the car and was ejected through the sunroof in his car. At least half of his body was, and died as a result of that. And again, I don't know for what reason I'm bringing this up, except I knew you would get a kick out of that story.
Well, I don't know if you read the article that I had up on Liberals Unite, but this guy in Seattle went to see that new Benghazi movie, and 13 hours or something, and he is he's so afraid of mass shootings in theaters that not only did he bring a loaded gun into the theater, but he was also on Xanax and drank a 22-ounce beer before or while watching the movie, and his gun went off and shot the woman in front of him, who apparently was in ICU, got out of ICU. But, so, to wrap this up, in a nutshell, guy walked into a theater, drunk on meds, carrying a gun because he was afraid of mass shootings, fumbled with his gun, claiming that the person next to him was grabbing for his crotch, shot a woman in front of him, and ran away from the scene because he was afraid that someone would think that he's a mass shooter.
Okay, only in America.
And not only that, but he's the son of like an army colonel or something. So, and his dad called it in. His dad called 911 saying his son was distraught and had told him he dropped his gun at a Renton Landing theater and had discharged. So, yeah, this is welcome to America.
Yeah, that's actually I don't even know. It's certainly that's not funny, but it's in its own way. It's I don't know, entertaining. I just wonder. Again, listening to your story, the one that I briefly mentioned, there was an article in the Washington Post a couple weeks ago that I saved in my pocket file. I still haven't read it, about fetishes. And the reason that they had written the article is they broke a long-standing murder case over a guy that had a foot fetish. And it was because of the way that he would position shoes of his victims that they were ultimately able to catch this guy. But they end up doing this article on fetishes. And I've often wondered, listen, whether I have them or not is irrelevant because I can say I don't and then people aren't going to believe me. And if I say I do, then people are going to want to know what they are. So we'll just leave that to the side. But I often wonder, especially when you see some of these odder ones, how people discover they even have them. And totally unrelated, this has nothing to do with sex at all, but I was watching the news last night, and there was a woman who, during her pregnancy, craved eating dirt. Now, that's odd in and of itself, and odd to her as well. She'd be the first one to tell you, but during her pregnancy, they were building a home, and there was something about the smell of the ground that she liked, and all of a sudden she started craving wanting to eat dirt. And as they were explaining this on the news, they said, well, it's really not all that unusual. Obviously we're familiar with cravings during pregnancy, but even odd ones like that are not really that unusual. I would still like to think that that's unusual, but that's just me.
But that's more like a craving than a fetish.
Yes, and there is a difference. There absolutely is a difference. But I just, again, I wonder, especially with some of the fetishes that are out there, people can let their imaginations run wild or just use your own fetishes for that matter. But how the hell do you discover that is something that turns you on?
Some of them are pretty weird, like some of the fecal fetishes or peeing and stuff like that.
That's what I was thinking of, yes.
I mean, like a foot fetish I can see. You're looking through a magazine and you see a foot and you go, ooh, that's pretty easy to discover. I don't know if you've been watching that new show, Billionaire, on Showtime. It's with, I can't remember the guy's name now. But the guy that used to be in Homeland, and then Diamatti or something like that, and he plays a district attorney, and you always see him in a scene where he's tied up and in bondage and stuff, and he's getting abused by this woman who turns out to be his wife, who's a psychologist. But that kind of stuff that happens on Wall Street and with high-powered guys is relief, right? It's you don't normal sex isn't fun anymore, so you gotta strap a tire battery to your testicles and to get any kind of satisfaction anymore.
Well, again, it just begs the question: how do you discover that's whatever? I don't know. I find I'm thinking about this guy driving down a major expressway. with his pants off, with his cell phone, playing pornography, masturbating, and then all of a sudden he ends up hitting a wall. I'm happy to say that nobody else was involved, nobody else was injured, but this man died as a result of, I would assume, is some kind of, public display fetish. I don't know. And we'll never know because the man's now dead. Yeah, he died. Yeah, he wasn't wearing a seatbelt. When he hit the wall, half of his body was ejected through the sunroof in his car, and we can assume from there what happened.
Well, I mean, we'll have to check with Ron, but maybe we can, get an expert on, or a sexpert, as they're called. I've done a couple articles and some stuff on things like that, not necessarily fetishes.
No, I think we should do that. We don't need Ron's permission to do that. I think that's one of the things that we promised when we began doing this show on Saturdays some months back is that it was going to be about everything and nothing and anything in between. And so, yeah, I think we absolutely should go out and we should have these kinds of discussions. The one thing that I've really discovered over my almost 23 years, and I'm coming up on my 23rd anniversary in radio here in a few short weeks, is that, we don't want this to get stale. The audience doesn't want it to get stale. And, there are oftentimes, Eve, that I've discussed stuff on the show that you normally wouldn't hear anywhere, on television, in print even, certainly not on the radio. And people oftentimes are very grateful that you went out and, it doesn't have to be done in a nasty way. And, you don't have to be, joking about it or, making a big deal. Sometimes it's just good for information purposes to discuss this kind of stuff, at least in my opinion anyway.
Well, I think it's important stuff. And what I think I might have told you the story before, but I've been primarily covering politics and the financial industry and things like that. And a year ago, so I covered a story on Masturbation Month, which is in May, which happened because of Clinton having fired the Surgeon General for her comments on that masturbation should be taught with sexual education. And of course, the right wing went nuts. And I forget the name of the Good Vibrations in San Francisco, and they've got one in Boston here. Started this thing for Masturbation Month to raise awareness about masturbation. And I did a piece for the Huffington Post on just that, on that day. And I had the opportunity to interview, I'm telling you, like 6 or 7 or 8 different people who are highly involved in sexual studies. And it was one of the most enjoyable and fun experiences interviewing these people and talking like real adults about the topic, that there wasn't all this giggling going on. And we really are kind of in a, puritanical society where that kind of stuff is really frowned on. And it's a shame because there's so many health issues surrounding sexuality and the human body as far as those areas go, that it's a shame that we don't pay more attention to it.
Well, I've always found it a little odd, Z, that, you use the word puritanical, and certainly there's this hush-hushness about, sexual commenting and however you want to classify it. And yet we see that sex is a driver of both of so many different avenues. It's a driver of news. It's at the center of political scandal. It is at the center of oftentimes scientific news and discovery. We not long ago, maybe it was in the last year or two, the first test tube baby had her, whatever it was, birthday, 30th birthday, whatever. And yet it's all tied in. And and I think it's so interesting as we talk about a puritanical society that is either horribly sexually repressed or is just afraid to say certain words like penis and vagina. We had a situation here in the state of Michigan a couple of years ago where one of our state reps used the word vagina on the House floor and was banned from talking the next day because she used that word. You know, this is the same group of lawmakers that end up playing footsie under the table and get busted for having an affair. Yet don't say the word vagina in public, because God forbid we might, I don't know what we might do. Get people to talk honestly about sex? I don't know.
Well, it's not even that they get caught having an affair, right? It's that it's usually the ones that get caught, that come out, that get caught in, like, you know, sex dungeons and stuff, are the ones that were like the biggest people against anything that would, quote unquote, be considered normal by normal human beings today. You know, it's the guys that are trying to pass laws against sodomy and fellatio that get caught in the weirdest situations where, you know, they're dressed up like a Boy Scout being spanked. I mean, this is, you know, it's usually the most repressed guys that have some kind of secret that they're trying to publicly deny even exist. You know, every time someone gets caught with, you know, with some kind of, you know, a homosexual affair, it turns out that the guy was one of the biggest ones against LGBT rights, or, you know, anything like that. I mean, that's the weird part about it, is it's the guys that, and I'm not saying that everyone that's against certain behaviors have a proclivity to those behaviors, but I'm saying is that the guys that get caught with these behaviors usually end up being the ones that were against it, and I think that makes sense.
It does make sense. Anyway, no apologies for the quick side trip there, and obviously there is some other stuff that we need to get to today. Now, I'll be the first to admit, you and I talked before the show, Z, that you and I have not been emotionally and otherwise involved in what's been happening in Oregon, although we're certainly aware of it and familiar with it. It's, you know, not been front and center in what you and I do on a daily basis. Again, not that it's not important, it is. But I thought maybe it would be critical if we took the time to perhaps get a little background on this. There was breaking news in regard to what is going on there and is still evolving. And so as soon as I can find the audio that I downloaded to play, and I know I've got it here somewhere, we will play it. Amongst the other things that we are going to obviously talk about today is what was a sensational town hall meeting on MSNBC last night with Rachel Maddow in Flint, Michigan. She was at the source, if you will. Anyway, this is Chris Hayes on MSNBC last night. Let's get a little background, and then Richard Zombeck and I will be back to discuss.
Come here and try to arrest you. They point a gun at you. They try to put cuffs on you. How far are you willing to take this?
Well, don't point a gun at me. You don't point a gun at them unless you're going to shoot them. That's the first thing your thought is, don't point guns at people. And so I'm telling them right now, don't point guns at me.
So you're prepared to die. Better dead than in a cell.
Absolutely. Dude, would you like to be in a cell? Nobody wants to live their life in a cell.
3 weeks ago, at the start of the standoff between armed protesters and law enforcement at a remote wildlife refuge in Oregon, rancher Lavoy Finsicum told MSNBC's Tony DeCopel that he was prepared to die rather than go to jail. Late yesterday afternoon, he was killed in a confrontation with law enforcement. 8 other protesters are now in custody, and now at least one of the remaining armed protesters, still barricaded in the wildlife refuge, is calling for armed violence against any law enforcement who stands in their way. Ever since the occupation began on January 2nd, many have viewed it as faintly ridiculous. Armed protesters taking over a deserted bird sanctuary. But our next guest has been warning that these protesters were backing themselves into a corner and that violence was growing increasingly likely. The situation came to a head in Harney County, Oregon, late yesterday afternoon when authorities set up a roadblock in anticipation of protest leaders traveling to a community meeting in another town. This purported witness photo shows the standoff on that highway, according to KOIN News in Portland. Authorities tell NBC News that one of the vehicles carrying protesters did not stop and ran into a snowbank, and Lavoy Finsicum emerged with a firearm. Officials say he was shot and killed. 5 people, including Ryan Bundy, who reportedly suffered a minor gunshot wound, and his brother Eamon Bundy, were arrested at that scene. 2 others were later arrested at the refuge in Burns, Oregon, and an 8th person turned himself into police in Peoria, Arizona, according to authorities. All 8 have been charged with conspiracy to impede officers of the United States from discharging their official duties through the use of force, intimidation, or threats, a felony. An unknown number of protesters remain at that wildlife refuge. Authorities say the refuge has now been contained by additional roadblocks, but in a live-streamed feed from the compound, an unidentified protester has called for anyone sympathetic to their cause to join them and, quote, if they stop you from getting here, kill them. Tonight, local news is reporting that Eamon Bundy, through his attorney, is asking the remaining protesters to go home. Joining me now, John Sepulvedo, the Weekend Edition host at Oregon Public Broadcasting. He's been covering this standoff since the beginning and has covered the Bundys since 2014. John, why was it that as you covered this, you started warning people that this was headed in a bad and possibly violent direction?
Well, I think a lot of people looked at what was happening, and they looked at the militants bearing their souls, and in many ways to a lot of Americans who don't have their views, these militants might seem as cartoonish, and that wasn't it at all. They were, in many ways, I believe, and still are. We should be very, very cognizant that there's still people there. They were letting people know about a deeper worldview, and we should say that this is not a worldview that is that extreme in the West. This is something that many others agree with, and that there have been some points made, and there's legislation in many state houses about it. But it was clear from the onset that these were not folks to be taken lightly, and they said it very clearly when I spoke with Ryan Bundy. He said that the guns make us serious.
Those guns, of course, have been looming over this entire thing. Law enforcement officials have taken a pretty laissez-faire approach. They've been hands-off. What do you think changed that brought this to a head last night?
You know, we've been reporting, and I want to be the first to say that we have been reporting that the FBI took a laissez-faire kind of attitude, and that a lot of the common perception is that since Waco and Ruby Ridge, the federal government doesn't want to engage with people and have a bloody massacre as they did in Waco or as they did in Ruby Ridge. I'm starting to hear from other experts that this is starting to look more like a rope-a-dope strategy, that they were allowing the Bundys and the leadership, to believe that they could do anything, to believe that they could go anywhere. And in this particular case, they became so confident in their ability that no one was going to stop them that they decided to get into this convoy and go on a very desolate, isolated road, which, you know, if any of us put some thought into it, we would have seen this coming. And I don't think any of us expected this, myself included. I was not anticipating this happening. In fact, I only got a call from a source maybe about 15 minutes before it was announced that this was going on. So, you know, there's been a lot of criticism towards law enforcement for their strategy. We're going to have to wait and see perhaps they took a very active strategy and that it worked. We don't know that, but that's something that we're going to have to examine. Well, then, quickly, John, can you tell me what happens next? Because there are still folks there and they're now threatening violence. And we should be very clear that the folks who are there are the folks who couldn't make it into that convoy of leadership. So these are folks who are on the edges of this extremist movement already. And we're starting to see some of them threaten, you know, extreme violence, that they will continue to feel very violent or act very violently if need be. We are hearing reports, and I have not confirmed these, but there are reports surfacing that one of the key leaders who's left there is considering taking Eamon Bundy's advice during his criminal proceedings today. After it, I should say, his attorney urged everyone to basically get out of the refuge while they can, and it looks like at least one person is taking that advice. We haven't confirmed that, but if this leader was to step down basically from the refuge, that would be a significant de-escalation.
All right, I should turn my microphone back on. Anyway, Z, that's kind of a primer as to what's happened over the last 24 hours. The center of this, of course, and we'll go back just a little bit, it was eminent domain as it came to some property They were illegally burning, which is, by the way, not an uncommon way on farmlands to, sometimes revitalize the soil. Anyway, there are different, but there was a lawsuit that was involved here as a result of that. As I know you're aware, some people were sentenced to jail time, and that's when this whole, I get to use the word, kerfuffle began. And that's where we find ourselves where we are. What's that?
I had a feeling that was going to come up.
Well, I didn't get to use it yesterday, and so I thought I would use it today. But, at the end of the day, this is, again, one of those stories that, I don't know, it kind of begs the question, is it getting not enough publicity? Is it really much ado about nothing? Is it about a militia mentality that we're just kind of tired of? Obviously, this seemingly would be a ripe story for GOP presidential candidates who haven't touched it. And so it just, you wonder, is this getting not enough not enough attention or what it deserves? Because I really don't know. I really am not emotionally invested in this story. I'm just being honest.
Well, so I've been trying to wrap my head around kind of why why we're not more invested in this, right? And what was interesting in that interview is the guy, I forget his name, that was on the scene had also done a lot of stories about suicide in the past, and he compared a lot of this kind of talk and discussion going on, particularly from the guy that he was talking about from the ranch that was shot. If you have been paying attention, it's the guy that was under the blue tarp. That he talked a lot like someone who, in that reporter's opinion, was considering suicide. Right. So he sounded like a person who was thinking about suicide. That was, he gave up his stuff. He was talking in very grandiose terms. He had this kind of narcissistic thinking about himself, that what he was doing was important. And so, when I think particularly when you're living in a more urban community or even suburban community, it's hard for people like us, that would probably be seen as elitists by, the Bundy crew, to understand what's going on, right? And we see that it's federal land. They have no right being on there, and they're looking at it as like, well, this is our land, and it's the government is taking our land from us. But the stuff that was like easy and low hanging fruit was, one guy was on Facebook saying he wanted to get there, but he couldn't because he was waiting for his disability check, right? So you've got a guy saying, I can't get there until I get my money from disability from the government to go and help you guys fight against the government, right? And then Eamon Bundy had also had gotten, $500,000, $500,000 from the government to subsidize his farming, and he's got an armed militia on government land that just gave him $500,000. So when you look at it that way, it makes absolutely no sense. And again, it's just a bizarre story wrapped in more lunacy and idiocy. Because again, I've got so many other things that I've been focusing on right now. Maybe I should spend a little more time paying attention to this particular story. I am interested to see how it unfolds throughout the next day or so. But it looks like the intensity of this particular story may be nearing its end. I'm going to play a little audio, and then I'm going to give you a chance, Z, because you're the one that sent this to me. I'm going to give you a chance to comment on it. For those that have forgotten, there is a caucus just 5 days away.
One of the members of the GOP clan is a guy by the name of Mike Huckabee, who actually won the Iowa Caucus some years back. Well, there's a little ad out, and I'm going to just let this speak for itself.
Hello, Sioux City. Your Woodbury County Supper Club has quite a cute baby. Try the pork chops, baked beef. Just as good as Pizza Ranch and Lamar's ice cream. Hello, Ankeny. Arctic blast, sub-zero chills, campaigning is a dream. I got frostbite, gangrene. Iowans are not for sale, they're stubborn and picky. There's just no difference between Obama and Hillary.
All right, Z. Now, everybody's listening to this going, well, gee, this is a parody of Hello, but it's not a parody, is it?
It's not a parody. It's the new Huckabee ad, and I don't know if he was trying to Bernie Sanders has a great ad out with America by Simon and Garfunkel, right? And I'm going to assume, and actually I'm not going to assume. I know Garfunkel gave him permission to use that song. I don't think Huckabee got permission from Adele to. I don't even know what you can call it. I was going to call it an imitation or a parody came to mind. But the scenes, if you're watching this, it's up on our website right now. It's the latest blog post at TNZ Talk. And actually, if people are listening, I'm gonna tweet that blog post out and put it up on Facebook because the title I put is the most horrible cover of Adele's "Hello" ever, right? And it's just I'm tweeting it and Facebooking it right now. So if anyone wants to watch it but there are scenes of Huckabee, and it looks like he has this existential angst on his face, and how hard it is to be driving through Iowa right now on this bus, and there are scenes of him in his bus and on his iPhone, and this horrible rendition with stuff that doesn't even rhyme. Let's just call it what it is, parodying Adele's song. And my wife brought this up to me yesterday. She should sue him, right? So and so the blog post I wrote, the most horrible cover of Adele's "Hello" ever, and it features, ready for this, Mike Huckabee. Seriously, I wouldn't make that up. This is really an ad by the Huckabee campaign. I don't know if they're trying to outdo Bernie Sanders with the Simon and Garfunkel ad, but they failed, failed miserably. And then I put this up last night. I said, you bet we'll be talking about this on tomorrow's show.
And we are. And it's interesting because, often we see politicians do these kinds of things. And oftentimes, like with Bernie Sanders' ad America, I posted that as well and got a great response to it. And people just loved it. And it doesn't always work, but I'm thinking as I'm watching, and I unfortunately watched it twice. It's almost 3.5 minutes long, the Mike Huckabee one with "Hello," and I'm thinking, and I'm the second time I watched it was because I wanted to try to figure out what message was he sending. I don't know. Fundamentally what the message was, what he was asking us to embrace, or, I still don't know that I get it.
Well, you know what I got from it? I got, it sucks to campaign. Iowa's a horrible place, and I really don't like doing this. That's
fair enough.
That's the message I got. I mean, here's the thing, right? You look at Bernie Sanders' ad, and you kind of do get choked up, right? And then you look at Huckabee's ad, and you get choked up too, but for a whole different reason. So
yeah,
I guess it's taller. But,
choked up or chucked up, depending on how you want to do that. 347-855-8118 if you want to join us. We go to the phones now. Caller, welcome to the TNZ show. What's on your mind?
Hey, guys. Good morning. It's Rihanna.
Rihanna, how are you this morning?
I am in the midst of a mental kerfuffle, I guess.
Love that word. Love that word. Thank you for using it.
You're welcome. I just have two comments, and I'll start with my comment on whatever the hell that was that you just played. And, you know, it's just so typical of Huckabee to do something just that confusing and weird and, you know, that attempt and fail. But I have to point out, remember Ben Carson's rap song? To try to... Yeah. He did a really horrible rap. Some PAC did, you know, for his campaign, because he wasn't resonating with African American citizens. And it was just about, it really was, I don't know how to identify whatever these are, but it was exactly the same type of thing that we just heard. It was the Ben Carson version and the rap version of this parody thing we just heard. So, and it made just about as much sense. So I think it's a weird Republican thing.
I think that you'd both agree, and as do I, that, you know, music evokes emotions and a musical background. And there's a reason that, you know, politicians have successfully, you know, we can go back to JFK and Frank Sinatra and, you know, even, you know, the Clintons, Don't Stop Thinking About Tomorrow. You know, music evokes very strong emotions when done well. When it's done well.
That's right. That's exactly right. And when it's bad, it's so bad. And when it's a Republican trying to, you know, say, hey, I'm not out of touch, I'm hip, it's really bad. And it's really confusing. And you're right. What is the message? Not one word had to be spoken in the Simon and Garfunkel, Bernie Sanders thing. It said it all just to watch it and listen. And with these, you know, with this one and the Ben Carson one, you're just kind of scratching your head going, I think I like you less. I know nothing about you, and I like you less.
And really, that's the point. If you're going to do something like that, if you're going to invest emotional to do that as well, then what's the payoff for me, the watcher? And that's why I watched it a second time. I thought, first time I watched, I really thought it was a joke. Now, had I not read Z's post, I wouldn't have known that it wasn't a joke. But I thought, no, this has got to be a joke. The second time, it was like, all right, this isn't a joke, so what did I miss? Well, I didn't miss anything because there's nothing to get.
Right. And you know what? Right now is when I am finding out that, in fact, it wasn't a joke. I really thought maybe it was a joke and I'm missing something. I'll check it out later when I get home. And you're telling me it's not a joke. Okay. I mean, was there something about baked beans in the lyrics? I thought I heard baked beans.
Yeah.
And pork chops.
Yeah,
and pork chops. I thought I heard pork chops. We could have learned this about Huckabee from God, Grits, Gravy, and Guns, or whatever that book was that he wrote. I mean, it's just weird, the connection that he's trying to make. And there is a segment where this might resonate, and that's frightening too.
Well, that really is the question, Rihanna. Is there a segment of his base that does resonate with? And, of course, I don't pretend to know who his base is any longer, but so I can't answer that question. But, you know, we'll give him credit for one thing. We've invested 15 minutes into this topic, so he got that out of it, if nothing else.
You know, perfect point. Perfect point.
And we're not the only ones talking about it. It was on Fox News this morning. It was on MSNBC this morning. I mean, this Mike Huckabee little, whatever it is, tribute to insanity got some news traction today.
Please feel sorry.
Pardon?
I got pity. I got pity from it. I mean, it's like I thought the guy was like just pitying himself. That's what I was able to glean from that ad was, oh boy, you really hate doing this, don't you? It just it really did. It's like he should call it the martyr video.
Yeah, perfect.
That's what it was meant to be. Did you have another comment, Rihanna?
I do, about the Bundy thing. To me, the whole thing just oozes this white privilege, entitlement, the insanity and lunacy and just stupidity and the infantile nature of the logical conclusion to this ultra-libertarian white privilege ideology. And it's like the ultimate fit that they're throwing. If we think about the connection to his father and that whole thing, how Sean Hannity was just pumping the whole story out there and trying to amp up emotion. And to me, there are a lot of racial undertones with this and blatant racial, tensions that this is creating and perpetuating. And I just think there's just an awful lot about this, because when you put this next, and how this is being handled next to any one of the unarmed African American men or women who has been beaten up or incarcerated or falsely arrested because they were resisting arrest, and you can't figure out what the original thing they did was other than walking down the street while, having brown skin. When you put the how this is being handled and looked at and talked about, particularly by like Fox News, by those types, next to any of the incidents that we're, dealing with men and women of color and the police.
Well, there's no question, and I don't know if you saw this. It's making its way virally around the internet, but and I don't have it in front of me right now. But there's a cartoon out there, and there's a guy holding a newspaper, and the headline of the newspaper says, it's about the citizens of Flint being poisoned, and the balloon on the first panel is why would Governor Snyder allow this? And the second panel balloon says, well, it's quicker than having the police shoot black people one at a time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
so stop
and goodness.
Yeah, stop and think about that one.
Right.
You make a good point. Now the white privilege thing, I think that's a sideline to what's actually going on. I'm not purporting to say that I know what's going on, but what they're doing and what they believe in and what's in their heart is deeper than I think any one of our upbringing and education can really fundamentally understand. I mean, sure. These guys absolutely believe in their cause, and it's easy for the rest of the rest of the country, particularly the East and the West Coast, who have a very different understanding of how the world looks and how they want the world to look, to not make a mockery of this. And I think when MSNBC did a really good job yesterday on Chris Hayes. They had a reporter on, again, a phenomenal job, a guy that knows and has been in that environment and was, quote unquote, embedded with them, and does have an understanding of that that segment of society and of our country that it still harkens back to the cowboy days when you had land and the government didn't intrude and you protected your grazing rights and all that stuff. Stuff that we, like I said, I don't understand it. I don't even really know if I want to understand it. But it's it goes way beyond white privilege, and I think they believe that they have fundamental rights that were God-given, and that they are willing to, and obviously a lot of these guys are poor. I mean, like I said earlier in the show, there was a guy on Facebook that was saying he was waiting for his disability check to come in so he could afford the $300 to go fight the government that was paying his disability check. So there's a lack of education, and I want to call it ignorance, because it's not so much that they're stupid. It's that there are people that have systematically been left behind and uneducated and are ignorant because of that, and they live in their own little bubble, and and I think the FBI's response and the government's response, the last thing I heard was, it wasn't so much a hands off because they were white, which is an easy meme to put on Facebook, right? It's like, we'll shoot black kids in the city, but we won't shoot the white guys that are taking over government land. They're holding off because they don't want another massacre to occur. So, like Waco.
Well, Ariana, again, thanks for the call and the comments. Z, just some quick audio, and then it'll make sense.
South Carolina went on Fox News, the network that he's feuding with, to say once again that he will not take part in Fox's debate tomorrow night. He spoke with Bill O'Reilly. It was fascinating. At times, the anchor lectured the candidate on being too self-centered and too quick to take offense. At other moments, he was almost imploring Trump to rejoin the debate.
Will you just consider, I want you to consider, all right? Think about it. Say, look, I might come back, forgive, go forward, answer the questions, look out for the folks. Just want you to consider it. You owe me milkshakes, I'll take them off the ledger if you consider it.
Well, even though you and I had an agreement that you wouldn't ask me that, which we did, I will therefore forget that you asked me that. But it's up to Fox. It's not up to me, Bill. What they did
You're
is
actually telling the truth.
We had that agreement. You actually did break the agreement.
You're telling the truth that I said.
Because I told you up front, I said, don't ask me that question.
All right, Z. Let's just let me just ask you the basic question. Just the basic question. Do you think Donald Trump is making a mistake by pulling out of the debate tomorrow night?
I don't think Trump makes a lot of mistakes. We talked about this yesterday, right? And then after we talked about it, I was watching the evening shows. Again, Chris Hayes, Meet the Press, or whatever it is now, Meet the Press Daily, or with Chuck Todd. Not one of my most favorite people, but. And a lot of the pundits, and I texted you during the show. I said they're saying exactly what I said. They must have listened to our show. that was a joke. But Cruz is creeping up behind him, and Trump has been impervious to any kind of backlash from the press or otherwise. It's kryptonite. No matter what and here they were again saying this is going to kill him. This is going to be his killer moment. And yesterday when I'm watching the shows, they're saying exactly what we were talking about yesterday, is that this is going to give the other candidates who are at 5 or 2 or 3% the opportunity to pigpile on Cruz. Right? They're not going to attack Trump. They've been wanting to attack someone for a really long time, and here they get the chance to maybe not be first in the polls, but maybe lead, get higher up or get ahead of Cruz and be second. I think the philosophy in in the Republican Party right now is that Trump is going to fade out, burn out, or quit. So if you're in second place, you hold the chalice. And if they can just get to that second place, which means knocking out Cruz, they can do it. Now, to answer your original question, strategically, if Trump thinks that as well, he also thinks, because he's a narcissist, that he could beat anyone in the Republican race. So if Cruz gets knocked out, then Cruz is really his arch enemy right now. So if he jumps out of the debates, let's Cruz take all the heat and the fire. Who does he have? He's got Jeb Bush, who's low energy, and he's got the rest of these idiots. So and it's a done deal. So he may very well be letting the rest of the Republican Party fight his fight. I don't know. Thoughts?
That's an interesting observation. There's another piece of this that is evolving, and Trump has decided that instead of taking part in the debate, he is going to take part in a live event where he will raise money for veterans, which is a very worthy cause, and I'm sure he means it, and he has promised that 100% of the money would go to veterans organizations. Well, the Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America have told Mr. Trump, thank you, but no thank you. If you'd like to send some of that money our way, we will not accept it. Which, again, goes to a mindset that really is smack dab in the middle of what Donald Trump really represents in this campaign, that he is either vastly appealing to whatever it is that he appeals to, or he is so disturbing that you don't even want to be associated with him. Imagine the divisiveness this creates if a country elects a guy like that. And that's possible. That's possible. I'll ask myself the question I just asked you. Do I think he's making a mistake by not showing tomorrow night? I do. I think he's making a wild mistake by not showing. And you're right, he doesn't make many mistakes, but this is one of those where he is now given, and I think that, and he's, by the way, claiming, I'm sure you're aware of this, that they will not have hardly any watchers. Did you see that?
Oh yeah, which is true. And here's the thing, and I know.
Do you believe people won't watch because he's not there?
I do believe that they will get less viewers, much less viewers. I think Donald Trump is right. He said it was something like 25 million people were watching when he was on, and that because he's not, they won't get more than 2 or 3 million. And here's the thing too, is that the rest of the networks don't have the licensing rights to the debate, and they'll probably be airing his event, which is airing at the same time, and will as the debates. He's very calculated, and he doesn't make a lot of mistakes. I hate to say that, but he doesn't make a lot of mistakes.
A little more slice of audio here, and then we'll come
The man
back.
faces charges after police say he threw tomatoes at Donald Trump during his Iowa City stop last night. University of Iowa police arrested Andrew Elamo for disorderly conduct. They say he threw 2 tomatoes at the Republican presidential candidate during his event last night at the UI Fieldhouse. He missed. The tomatoes did not make contact with the Donald. Protesters did interrupt his speech a number of times last night.
Now, again, if you're going to throw tomatoes, hit them.
Well, all I can say about that is I agree with both. I mean, one, I'm happy that the guy threw tomatoes at Trump, and he should have been arrested. That's just what happens. And hopefully he took that into consideration before he brought the tomatoes in and lobbed them at Trump. I'm glad to see people throwing tomatoes at him. I feel bad for the guy. It's a shame that he got arrested, but that's what happens when you throw tomatoes at a guy. I wish I could have
No, it was stupid for him to do. It was stupid for him to do that. I find it fascinating the way that Donald Trump has turned hecklers into part of his town halls. He encourages them. Have you seen it? He encourages it. When they start heckling, he encourages it. Go on, get it out, say it. But one guy, it was cold outside, and the security was taking him away, and somebody tried to give him his coat. Donald Trump said, "No, don't give him his coat. No. Get him out of here. Get him out. Don't let him have his winter coat. I don't care if it's 10 degrees outside."
Right.
And the crowd was going crazy. They were loving it.
Yeah, he knows how to work the room, and he invites. I mean, look, Donald Trump thinks he's the smartest guy in the room. Donald Trump thinks he's the most powerful guy in the room. So, and he's also from New York, and and I'm from Boston, and I will always go to a fight when invited. Particularly when it's wits or intellectual discussion. It's the way we're brought up, and plus my mother's French, so there's not a single argument that I won't go to. And my favorite phrase is, "You've come to a battle of wits unarmed," and I think Trump has that same kind of attitude. It's like, I'm going to beat you, so bring it on. Whatever you want to say, bring it on, because I'm going to beat you. Now, his rhetoric tends to lean more towards, recess and personal insults and, you're a poopy head. And, but people seem to eat it up. So why not keep going? I mean, the guy is an entertainer. He was in WWE wrestling. He was a promoter for that. He's got his own reality shows. He knows what people are going to eat up, and he's more than happy to just throw out a buffet.
Well, he is obviously, listen, I have somebody bought me a copy of Art of the Deal that I've never even cracked open. It is in pristine condition. And I got to tell you that lately, I actually put it by my nightstand. And lately, it's been kind of nudging at me to pick it up. And I've been fighting that urge. He's got to be good at the Art of the Deal, buddy. He must be really good at the Art of the Deal.
Well, I mean, the guy's worth billions, right? And he's huge. Huge, Tony.
Yeah, well, he'll be the first to tell you that. I cannot believe how fast this hour went by. My apologies to those that were expecting us to get into the Flint town hall with Rachel Maddow last night on MSNBC. We will save that audio, and we will get to that tomorrow. That's a promise. We're also going to take a look at Chuck Hagel has kind of done a rundown. You want to quickly preview that, Z?
Well, yeah, Chuck Hagel, and there were a couple of other guys that were heavily involved in the military that did some interviews talking about the Republicans' attitude on the military and on ISIS and things like that. And I think that's an important topic that we should definitely keep to tomorrow. And as far as whatever else comes up, there's the debate tonight, and there's Donald Trump's event, and we'll see what we're going to be talking about tomorrow. It always seems to be a surprise.
In
the meantime, you want me to give out the?
Yeah, please.
Here? Sure. You can find us at tnztalk.com on the net, and from there you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and download our podcast. We're also on iTunes and Stitcher, and of course on Blog Talk America. And as usual, we want to thank Blog Talk America and
Blog Talk USA. Yeah, and they've got a great Facebook page as well. Rihanna, who is part of the Blog Talk USA team, who called this morning, we appreciate that. Ron Spikes, whose brainchild is Blog Talk USA, is listening this morning. And so, Ron, as always, appreciate your support. Z, as always, appreciate being with you. We will be back tomorrow, my friend, and look forward to doing that.
Oh, me too.
All right, that'll do it for us for this Thursday, ladies and gentlemen. And as always, we ask that you be well.